You don't always have to explain yourself. You don't always have to announce your decision. There comes a time in your life when the most powerful move you can make is to walk away, silently. Not because you're weak, not because you're afraid of confrontation, but because you've outgrown the noise. Because you've learned that peace doesn't beg to be heard. It simply exists. And when you finally realize that your energy is precious, that your time is non-refundable, you stop spending it on people who don't deserve it. We live in a culture that celebrates loud exits, big announcements, and dramatic goodbyes. But the truth? The strongest people are the ones who don't need to prove a thing. They just go. No speech, no confrontation, no trying to make others see their side. They've already done the emotional math, and the cost of staying is greater than the cost of letting go. And so they choose silence, not as a weapon, but as a shield. When you leave silently, you are making a statement without uttering a word. You're saying, I've had enough. You're saying, I no longer need to convince you. You're saying, my peace matters more than your validation. And here's what's powerful about that. Most people won't know what to do with your silence. They're used to chaos. They're used to reactions. But when you respond with stillness, they're forced to face the emptiness they created. Leaving silently doesn't mean you're avoiding accountability. It means you've given all the chances. You've had the conversations. You've tolerated the disrespect, the neglect, the manipulation. And now you're done, quietly, maturely, with your head high, no anger, no resentment. Just clarity. You finally see things for what they are, and you're not willing to shrink anymore just to fit into places you've outgrown. This isn't just about walking away from people. It's about walking away from versions of yourself that you've outlived. The insecure version, the people pleaser, the one who stayed too long trying to fix what they didn't break. That version of you was necessary, but it's not required anymore. You've grown, you've learned, and now it's time to elevate. There's a quiet revolution that happens the moment you choose yourself. It's not loud. It's not messy. It's a calm, intentional shift. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop waiting for others to recognize your worth. You leave. You move on. And you let your absence be louder than your words ever could be. And the people who were never meant to stay, they'll notice. They'll notice when your name isn't showing up anymore. When your presence is no longer there to fix things, to listen endlessly, to be the strong one, your silence will echo in places you used to fill with your energy. And that's not revenge. That's reality. That's what happens when you stop feeding people who only knew how to take. This is your permission slip to go, to detach, to disappear from environments that drain you, to stop explaining your boundaries to people who never respected them to begin with. You don't owe anyone access to you. You don't owe anyone a seat at your table just because they once sat there. People earn your energy, and when they stop showing up with honesty, respect, and effort, you stop showing up too, not loudly, silently. So if you're holding on because you're afraid of what leaving will look like, let me remind you, your silence holds power. It speaks louder than shouting. It teaches without punishing, and it heals without hurting. Walk away, walk on. Don't look back. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the blanks. You've got a life to build, a future to step into, and you don't need an audience for that. You just need courage. Quiet, unshakable, unwavering courage. And you already have it. There's something deeply transformative about learning to walk away in silence. At some point, you come to realize that not every battle needs to be fought, not every betrayal needs to be confronted, and not every goodbye needs to be loud. Silence isn't running away. It's rising above. It's a conscious choice to protect your peace, your energy, and your future. And the moment you understand that, you become unstoppable, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you chose yourself quietly. We spend so much of our lives trying to be understood. We bend, we explain, we overextend. We try to make people see our side, hear our pain, recognize our value. But here's the raw truth. Some people don't want to understand. Some people benefit from your confusion, your need for their validation, your fear of being alone. And the most radical, freeing decision you'll ever make is to walk away without asking for closure. Because sometimes closure isn't something you're given, it's something you create. It means you felt it deeply, processed it, and now you're done letting it take space in your life. That's strength. That's growth. And that's what most people never expect. They expect anger, they expect tears, they expect you to plead, to argue, to beg for change. But when you leave quietly, you take back your power. You stop giving the situation oxygen. And that's when things start to shift, internally and externally. When you leave silently, you move from reaction to reflection. You begin to see patterns. You realize that your presence has been your loudest statement all along, that your consistency, your support, your kindness, that was the value. And now that it's gone, the void is felt, but not by you. You've already made peace with your decision. You've already realized that your worth isn't dependent on being needed, accepted, or understood. You finally know who you are, and more importantly, who you are not. Silence allows you to return to yourself. When the noise fades, when the distractions disappear, you're left with clarity. And clarity is everything. It tells you where you compromised too much, where you stayed too long, where you lost your voice, and it guides you forward, not to prove a point, but to realign with your purpose. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves to hear your side of the story. Not everyone has earned access to your healing. Some exits are meant to be unseen, unspoken, and unforgettable. People may misunderstand your silence. They may call it cold, dramatic, or selfish. Let them. You're not responsible for their narrative. You're responsible for your life, for your peace, for your healing. And if walking away quietly is what it takes to preserve those things, then you walk with grace. You walk with dignity. You walk with your head high and your soul intact. Because leaving silently doesn't mean you're suppressing your voice. It means you're channeling it where it matters most, into your growth, your goals, and your self-worth. This kind of strength is not taught, it's earned. It's the kind of wisdom you develop after being disappointed too many times, after realizing that begging for someone to treat you right is a waste of your breath, after understanding that the loudest person in the room isn't the most powerful one. The one who can walk away without needing applause is. That's you now. You don't need an audience. You don't need to prove you're right. You don't need to burn bridges to feel strong. You just leave silently, and that silence, it echoes. Eventually, people will realize what your silence meant. Maybe not today, maybe not even next week. But when the noise of their world dies down and they go looking for the calm you used to bring, they'll notice your absence. They'll feel it in the spaces you used to fill. But by then, you'll be far ahead, not bitter, not broken, but better. Better because you chose yourself. Better because you didn't waste energy trying to convince people who never really listened. Better because you walked away, and in doing so, you walked towards something greater. This isn't just about leaving. It's about elevation. It's about stepping into the life you are meant to live without dragging people with you who only slowed you down. It's about making peace with letting go and understanding that silence is sometimes the only language your soul needs to speak. So leave, and do it silently. Because you don't owe anyone a final word. You owe yourself a new beginning. There's a moment when you stop talking and start acting, when you stop repeating the same explanations, having the same arguments, making the same excuses for other people's behavior, and you just walk away. No warning, no dramatic exit. Just a quiet, calm decision to choose yourself. That moment is powerful. It's life-changing. It's when you realize that your energy is too valuable to waste on people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't leave because you're bitter. You leave because you finally accepted the truth. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Leaving silently is one of the most courageous things you can do. It's not the easy way out. In fact, it's harder. It means you've outgrown the need to be right. You've outgrown the need to have the last word. You're not walking away because you couldn't fight. You're walking away because the fight was never worth it. It was never balanced. It was never mutual. And you've decided that your peace is no longer up for negotiation. Too many people stay stuck in places that drain them just because they're afraid of what walking away will look like. They worry about being seen as rude, as cold, as selfish. But here's the truth. Self-respect isn't selfish. Protecting your energy is not rude. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. It's clarity. And sometimes clarity looks like silence, like choosing not to explain, like letting someone wonder why they can't reach you anymore, why your presence has disappeared from their life. That wondering, that silence, it teaches more than your words ever could. When you choose to leave silently, you're saying a matter too. You're saying, I will no longer shrink myself to be accepted by those who never valued me.
Hmm.
And that is a lesson every single one of us has to learn. Because if you don't teach people how to treat you, they will teach you how to forget your worth. They will chip away at your confidence, your trust, your identity, until you no longer recognize the person you've become. But the moment you choose to walk away quietly, you begin the process of remembering who you are. You start to reclaim your time, your focus, your purpose. You stop showing up for people who never showed up for you. You stop investing in one-sided relationships and dead-end conversations in situations that leave you empty. Instead, you start showing up for yourself. You pour into your own cup. You build your dreams. You surround yourself with peace. And the best part, you do it all without needing to explain a thing. Because growth isn't loud. It's not posted all over social media. It's not proven through arguments. It's quiet. It's disciplined. It's removing yourself from the chaos so you can finally hear your own voice again. It's spending time alone, not because you're lonely, but because you're learning how to love being with yourself. That kind of growth requires silence. It requires stillness. It requires space. And that's why you had to leave. Not for revenge, not to hurt anyone, but to finally take care of you. People who truly valued you will feel your absence. They'll notice that something is missing. But by then, you'll have moved forward. You'll have healed. You'll have created a life so full of purpose, so rich with peace that there's no longer any room for the drama you left behind. And that's the point. That's the reward of walking away in silence. You don't just leave behind a situation. You leave behind a version of yourself that tolerated less than you deserved. And no one needs to understand that but you. You're not obligated to stay anywhere that makes you feel small. You're not required to keep showing up for people who never clapped for you. You owe yourself the kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's behavior. So if you're standing at the edge, wondering if you should go, let this be your sign. Sure, leave. Quietly, calmly, without a second glance. Because the most powerful statement you can make is your absence. And the most beautiful growth you'll ever experience begins the moment you choose yourself. Without apology, without permission, without noise. There comes a time when explaining yourself becomes exhausting. When repeating your needs, your feelings, your boundaries to people who refuse to listen starts to feel like begging for basic respect. That's the moment you know it's time to go, not with anger, not with a fight, not with some big dramatic ending. Just go quietly, calmly, with your head held high and your peace intact. Because when you truly understand your worth, silence becomes your loudest response. Leaving them silently doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared too much for too long. It means you tried, and you gave, and you hoped things would change. It means you exhausted every emotional resource you had trying to make something work that was never healthy to begin with. And now, you finally realize that the only person you were hurting by staying was yourself. So, you stop talking. You stop explaining. You stop justifying your exit. And you just leave. There's a quiet kind of strength in walking away without making a scene. It shows emotional discipline. It shows growth. It shows that you no longer need to be understood to move on. That's the key. So many people stay stuck because they're waiting for someone to understand their pain, to acknowledge their effort, to admit they were wrong. But not everyone will give you that. And when you stop needing that from others, you finally give it to yourself. You validate your own feelings. You honor your own limits. You say, this isn't healthy for me anymore. And that's enough. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation. You don't need them to agree with your reasons. Because at the end of the day, no one feels what you feel when you lay your head on the pillow at night. No one lives with the weight of staying in a situation that's slowly breaking you. Only you do. And that's why only you can decide when enough is enough. Silence isn't a weakness. It's a boundary. It's a powerful decision to no longer participate in conversations that go nowhere, to no longer invest in connections that don't nourish you, to no longer give your energy to people who never valued it in the first place. And here's the truth. When you leave silently, you don't just walk away from others. You walk back to yourself. You return to your values, your goals, your voice. You start building a life that doesn't require constant explaining or defending. And yes, people will talk. They'll notice your absence. They'll wonder why you stopped reaching out, why you stopped showing up. Let them. Your silence will say everything that your words never could. It will speak of self-respect, of peace, of strength, of boundaries, and if they genuinely cared, they'll reflect. They'll realize what your presence meant. But whether they do or not, that's not your business anymore. Your business now is healing, growing, moving forward. We often think leaving quietly means giving up, but it's the opposite. It's choosing growth over comfort. It's realizing that your peace doesn't require an audience. It's understanding that not all exits need to be acknowledged to be real. Sometimes the most powerful moves are made in silence. Sometimes the most life-changing decisions are made without a single word. You owe it to yourself to choose peace over chaos. You owe it to yourself to protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. You can't keep pouring into places that only take. You can't keep justifying your boundaries to people who are committed to crossing them. At some point, you have to trust your own voice. And when that voice says, this isn't it anymore, listen. Don't argue. Don't seek permission. Just go. And go quietly. Because your silence is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's direction. It's a new beginning. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to look back. You don't need closure from them. The moment you leave with peace in your heart and no bitterness in your soul, you've already won. You've already healed. You've already made the most powerful statement of all. You chose yourself. And you did it silently. That's power. That's maturity. That's freedom.